One slipped hand, one missing matter, one forced kill, and the entire arena becomes a hellhole. These are the 16 most terrifying gymnastics deaths, and wait till you see the last one, because it will shock you to the core. Michelle Matelan. Let's start with the case of Michelle Matelan, who lived in Australia. She was a young gymnast prepared for a backward twisting layout, which is a complex move that demanded precision and protection. Matlan took off with confidence, her body spinning through the air. For a moment, everything looked like it made sense, but then something went completely wrong. She over-rotated, and instead of landing on the thick padding, she crashed headfirst onto bare concrete. Here's what made it a completely different case compared to others. A critical section of safety matting that had been moved earlier, yet never replaced. This resulted in an impact so devastating that the gym fell silent as coaches and teammates rushed towards her. Upon investigations, it was a chain of negligence as her coach was not qualified to teach the skills she attempted. Safety checks were ignored, and all of this resulted in a prodigy losing her life in the worst way possible. You watch athletes push their limits, but you're not subscribed? That's a missed landing. Subscribe to see what happens when precision fails. Uzair Ali. Then comes the case of Uzair Ali. And there's a psychological comfort in believing that the danger in elite gymnastics only begins when the judges raise their flags and the high-flying routines start. An Indian gymnast named Uzair shattered that comfort completely, and he did not die while attempting a gold medal. He lost his life before the competition even began. The boy was warming up for a regional event and executing his foundational tumbling passes. For us untrained people, a warm-up looks like light stretching and basic activations. But when we move towards the elite gymnastics world, a basic tumbling pass involves putting the human body through the air at fast rotational speeds. During a routine forward flip, Uzair miscalculated his spatial awareness by just a fraction of a second. Instead of his feet finding the mat, he landed directly on the crown of his head. This was devastating as his skull stopped abruptly, but the torso's momentum continued going forward. His cervical spine absorbed the entire kinetic load. One small lapse in his judgment and his body's ability to sense its location in space was all it took to end Uzair Ali's life. Naful Takir Albari. But if Uzair's case devastated you, wait till you hear this one. Modern training facilities look incredible as they are filled with giant pits of soft foam blocks, and we assume that athletes are completely safe. It even looks like a playground that is designed to catch falling athletes in a soft embrace. However, the heartbreaking case of Naful Takir Albari exposed what forensic analysts call the foam pit paradox. It was late 2005. Naful was doing his Olympic hopeful training at an elite facility in Penza, Russia. Naful belonged to Indonesia, and he was just 19 years old at the time of his training. He was working on a highly complex release skill on the horizontal bar, which is a move that requires launching into the air, releasing the bar, rotating, and reattempting to catch. During a release, he lost his grip and plummeted into the foam pit. For the most part, foam pits are engineered to dissipate kinetic energy, but they still obey the law of physics. If an athlete enters at a sharp, awkward angle, or if the foam blocks at the bottom have become compacted from repeated use, the surface beneath the top layer would act like a solid brick, and the same was the case here. Naful landed in the worst possible position, and his head became trapped between the dense foam blocks, while the fast rotational momentum of his lower body continued to carry over his neck. This unnatural torque snapped his cervical spine instantly, and he fought for his life in intensive care for around 12 days before passing away. You're watching gravity win again? Might as well subscribe before it does. Alexandra Huchi. She was one of Romania's most respected gymnasts and trained at an elite gymnastics school. On an ordinary training day in summer 2001, Alexandra worked calmly in the foam pit, nursing a minor wrist injury. Then she approached her coach and whispered that she felt sick. Minutes later, she turned pale and shaken. She even started vomiting. There was no fall, no impact, just a quiet signal that something was going terribly wrong. Doctors were called in, and confusion was everywhere as Alexandra slipped into a coma right in the gym. When the tests were done, they revealed a rare congenital malformation in the blood vessels of her brain. This is a sudden hemorrhage that flooded her brain without warning for around 5 days. She fought, and on August 20th, 2001, Alexandra Huchi died. She never fell. She never failed a skill, but her body simply collapsed under a danger that no one could ever predict. Sergey Karkov. The Soviet Union produced some of the most badass athletes, and Sergey was no exception. In the secretive Soviet gymnastic system, information about training accidents was closely guarded. Sergey Karkov was a promising young gymnast training at an elite facility when one-day disaster struck during a high bar routine. According to the reports that emerged decades later, Sergey was attempting a complex release move when his grip suddenly failed. He fell from a significant height, landing on his neck, and that impact was catastrophic as his spinal cord was severed, and he died within hours. Soviet officials never publicly acknowledged the accident, and his name was quietly removed from all official records. His family was reportedly told to remain silent, and former coaches who defected confirmed that Sergey's death was one of the several training fatalities that were systematically covered up. Diane Durham. Diane Durham's case is quite painful because she was the first African American to win the U.S. National Gymnastics Championship back in 1983. She made history. She was a trailblazer, breaking barriers in sports that had been overwhelmingly white. Her power and grace made her a favorite for the 1984 Olympics. However, a wrist injury destroyed her Olympic dreams. She competed through pain, but the injury worsened. Eventually, she was forced to withdraw from the Olympic trial, and the disappointment consumed her. She had worked her entire life for that moment, and now she just couldn't compete. Her condition started worsening because on February 4, 2021, Diane Durham died from complications related to short illnesses. She was only 52, and while it wasn't caused during her gymnastics routine, a lot of people believe that it was years of physical punishment that contributed to the health problem that emerged decades later. Maria Krukova. Precision matters, timing matters, decisions matter. This is one of them. Subscribe now. While we have talked about the landing mistakes, we must also talk about the silent killers in the world of gymnastics. Maria Krukova was a fierce, dynamic competitor who was helping the Russian national team secure an Olympic bronze medal at the 2004 Athens Games in March 2020. Then, in March 2025, at the remarkably young age of 6, she dropped dead without any specific cause. When forensics did their part, they saw that the cause of death was a massive pulmonary embolism, which is a blood clot that formed deep in her body and traveled to her lungs, instantly blocking the flow of oxygen. It doesn't really make sense. How does a world-class, healthy Olympic athlete die from a blood clot? The answer lies in our biology. To go through those extreme loads, the body must adapt to these situations. Elite gymnasts often develop something called extreme bradycardia and an incredibly low resting heart rate. While it is normally a sign of peak fitness, the sudden cessation of elite-level training upon retirement can sometimes cause dangerous circulatory sluggishness. The constant micro-trauma, internal bruising, and heavy taping that is associated with thousands of hours of gymnastics impact can ultimately lead to the formation of small blood clots in the bruised tissue of the leg. Those exact blood clots travel to the lungs, which gives us the reason for Maria's exact death. Natasha Yakimeno. Then comes the chaotic period following the Soviet Union's collapse, where safety standards at many gymnastics facilities were lowered as funding disappeared. Natasha was training in Ukraine when a catastrophic equipment failure occurred. She was performing on an uneven bar when one of the supports suddenly failed. The entire apparatus collapsed, and Natasha fell violently. The heavy equipment crashed on top of her. The impact was so massive that it caused internal injuries and severe head trauma. Despite doctors' best efforts, she died within 24 hours. Investigations later revealed that the equipment hadn't been properly maintained in years, and the bolts were rusted, the supports were weakened, which led to the death of a young prodigy like her. Shizuko Sakashida. Shizuko's case was quite unique because it didn't come on an X-ray, but rather the psychological trauma that was inflicted by her sports, which was just as lethal as a fall from the high bar. Shizuo was a dedicated Japanese Olympian who had given her entire childhood and adolescence to the relentless pursuit of becoming the best. At the age of 38, she tragically died by suicide. Loss falls squarely under the category of psychological trauma. The transition out of elite gymnastics is quite brutal. Athletes who have spent their entire life being judged on their physical ability, now living on a normal schedule instead of hyper-regimented schedules, while facing a massive, crushing crisis of identity upon retirement, aren't easy. She was stripped of her daily training goals in the roar of the crowd, and now normal life seemed too boring when she couldn't find anything related to anything as exciting and adrenaline-pumping as gymnastics. She chose to unalive herself. Yuki Endo. Long before modern safety standards even existed, Japan's gymnastics faced a huge tragedy. Yuki Endo was a legend and was performing on the pommel horse during a national competition when he lost his grip during a complex routine. He fell awkwardly and his head struck the apparatus on the way down. The angle of impact caused a cervical fracture that severed his spinal cord. Medical personnel rushed to help, but the injury was a total fatality. Witnesses described the horror of watching a routine performance turn into a life-ending accident in seconds. At that time, gymnastics wasn't as normalized as it is today, so it was painful for most people, but it was most painful for Yuki, whose life just ended. Corbett flip fatalities. Last on our list is the Corbett flip fatalities, which was named after the Soviet gymnast Olga Korbut, who stunned the world with the most dangerous move at the 1972 Olympics. This move involved a standing back somersault on the balance beam, which is a skill so risky that it eventually got banned from the competition. Before it was banned, several gymnasts died attempting to master it during training. The exact name and date still remain difficult to verify due to the Soviet-era privacy, but multiple reports from former Eastern Bloc coaches confirm that at least 3 gymnasts suffered a fatal accident while attempting the variation of this skill. The move required perfect timing, amazing spatial awareness, and flawless execution. One miscalculation would mean falling backward off a 4-inch wide beam that is positioned 4 feet off the ground. The landing would often be headfirst onto the mat that wasn't designed for that kind of impact. By the mid-1980s, the International Gymnastics Federation banned the move entirely, citing that it is extremely dangerous, but the ban was too late because a lot of people already lost their lives. Which case surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments down below. If you want to stay up to date with more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel and ring the bell icon for more.